This episode of learning more about Northern Italian regional cultures and languages with Ruben from San Giorio Di Susa is continuing. So before we got cut off there, we were talking obviously about you introducing yourself in Piemontese and how you kind of learned it from your grandparents who were not from Valley Susa like yourself, but actually from Canavese. And so when you speak Piemontese, you've got a bit of a Canavese accent, which is kind of funny, even the fact that you never lived there for any substantial period of time. And just hearing Piemontese, it sounds like such a rich and beautiful language. And obviously, what you said was it is a big part of your identity. Out with the language itself, however, do you participate in any traditions in either San Giorgio di Susa or Piemonte more generally? And if so, what do these local traditions mean to you?
Yep. It's a quite big question because local traditions can be either like folkloristic traditions. There's also the real part, in my opinion, which is live as a Piedmontese with his own culture and live every day with it. For me, it's more important to have this second aspect. So to live and behave like people from here. Say this is the real form of continuing keep traditions and continue to keep our people alive. If you live every day in a certain way with your according to your culture, well, the most that you can, of course, you live in a modern world, but I think this is the most important part. Traditions in sense of folklore, it's very nice because you can still see all the clothes. It's a moment of in which a lot of people from the village meet, and if you only do this, then your culture is dead. So if you reduce your identity and your culture just on the folkloristic side, and you live outside the world, or you live in another way that compared to your own culture, if you only do this, it's useless. It's nice, folklore is nice, but it's not the essential part of your culture. So I try to live according to what my culture and people taught to me. I think this is the most important thing. I know it's quite complicated to define it. The
What are some
answer,
Piemontese values that you hold dear to your heart?
that's it's a good question. We Piedmontese, we are quite a, I won't say shy people, but there are a lot of stereotypes about Italy and Italians. But stereotypes about Piemonte are quite the opposite, in the good and bad sides. We are quite hardworking. Not that other Italians are not. I just this is our behavior. We are not funny people first. Piedmontese are not funny people at all. This is not a value, but it's one of our characteristics. I think we are hardworking, trustworthy people. I don't want to speak good about ourselves. We are also not funny people, as I mentioned, quite shy people. We can be very polite but false. There's even a famous sentence in Italian that we are polite but false. I'm just trying to define a picture of what the Piedmontese civilization and culture used to be. We are quite alpine people in our behavior, in our gastronomy, in our relationship with other people. So we are not very far from people from other region of the Alps, or I'd say this cultural area. I even say that we are closer in behavior to people from other countries than from other regions of our own country. So for me, it's very important not to live as what may be a standard Italian culture. I hope it was comprehensible. It's quite complicated if you're not mother tongue in English to express such concepts, but hope it was comprehensible.
No, respect to you for being able to articulate such a complicated and not a very well written about concept in a language that is not your native tongue. As you were saying, I think many viewers who stumble on this video will find it very helpful. The image they have of Italy that's maybe been conveyed in literature, in TikTok videos, and even in traditional Hollywood movies, that image of a very Mediterranean, extroverted culture is not something which, in your opinion at least, applies to the local people of Piedmont. who, in your opinion, are much more reserved, more focused on economic matters. That's where maybe the traditional Po Valley work obsessed image comes from. And they're maybe not the most comedic of people. So I think having that perspective from you, a relatively young local, is quite insightful. And I think a lot of people are maybe going to visit Piemonte at some point and see if they can see that character and philosophy exhibited by the Piemontese people, perhaps more so in the countryside, as you identified earlier on about how, those areas perhaps exhibit that classical behavior in a greater fashion than, larger cities, like you said. Um, you articulated it very well, so thank you for doing that. And just lastly, as we're going to close, obviously it's been a pleasure and a privilege to have you on, but would you like to mention any projects, if any, that you're involved with, or would you like to kind of plug any Piemontese culture or projects or any films about Piemonte that you've enjoyed throughout your life?
Yeah, so there's some interesting projects that are going on that are trying to save all the local toponymy in the Alpine valleys, and this is a very good project that is being made by the University of Turin that I fully support. I'm not part directly of this project, but I've spoken with a lot of people who are studying about this, and I think it's a very interesting thing to do, just so we can have a trace of what we used to be. Concerning the Piedmontese languages, luckily we still have some associations that promotes the use of the Piedmontese. I personally speak Piedmontese wherever I can and whenever I can. So I think this is quite important because most of the people that are Piedmontese, if they see you're young, they directly speak to you in Italian. But I really try to speak as much as I can. It's a small thing that try to keep the language alive. I try to do my best in my circle, in my environment, to keep the language and the tradition and culture alive, and also the awareness of this, because Piedmontese culture has been a bit like absorbed or even obliterated, especially in Turin and large urban areas. So there's not even the knowledge and the awareness that there was such, I don't know, a distinctive culture and language that used to be there. So yeah, I try to speak about it. I try to present it. I'm not trying to convert people. I'm just to try to speak with people and raise the awareness. So I won't say I'm involved, not yet, at least, because as I mentioned, now I'm working in a nearby valley on the French side, quite close from here. Then the same people, same family names as here, but in another country. I'm not an active part of a local association, but I try to do my best to keep the language and the culture and the awareness alive in the environment around me. That's basically what I do at the moment.
And I think that's a fantastic mentality to have. If everyone makes a small contribution, that goes a long way. It's when people start looking unfavorably upon their own language or own culture, or even having indifference toward it. That's when things really do start to make a seismic decline. But if even someone like yourself, who now lives a little bit away from home and in a different country, even if it's culturally very similar, if you take every opportunity to promote projects or to speak to people of any age and background Piemontese, that in itself is a big contribution. So I'd just like to close by saying thank you, Ruben, for joining. It has been a pleasure and a privilege. And anytime you are involved in future projects, do let me know. I will be glad to promote it. And of course, you are always welcome back on for future episodes. Thank you so much.
Thank you for this interview and for letting me speak with my English. So yeah, if we speak about Piedmontese and awareness, that's the first step. So thank you.